have no clue why we have this arrangement. I'm not expecting to have a conversation with you because this is for you to talk about your thoughts on leading the era of AI, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. It is really my pleasure to introduce a friend, a colleague, and an extremely interesting person, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. He is the chairman of 5F World, GTT Data Solutions, Honeywell Automation, and Lighthouse Communities Foundation. I think we met in our work on Lighthouse Communities Foundation in Delhi. And every time I have met you after that, you have started something new. So amazing is all I can say. Dr. Ganesh Natarajan is an alumnus of BIT Mesra, IIM Mumbai, IIT Mumbai, and Harvard Business School. So he's ticked all the boxes of all the good schools in the world. Ganesh is a veteran in the corporate and social sectors in India. He has completed 2 successful CEO tenures at Aptech. Some of you possibly know about the company and some of you may have only heard about it. And Zensar Technologies, which continues to thrive and grow. Based on his work at Zensar, where he was instrumental, or he had started this community of vision communities and innovation. Harvard Business School has written 2 cases on Zensar and his work at Zensar, which are very often taught in multiple schools across the world. So Dr. Ganesh Natarajan is also post-retirement a prolific book writer. He told me he writes a book every 18 months, puts us all to shame. He's the author of 14 books on business process reengineering, knowledge management, digital success, and leadership. And this particular talk that Dr. Ganesh Natarajan is going to give today was actually scheduled almost 4 months ago, 7 months ago, wow. And it rained at that time so badly that he was unable to come for the talk. So we had to cancel it and we had to reschedule it. So thank you again for accepting our invite and agreeing to come and give the talk to all of us. I think we must say that these talks are organized under the aegis of the Ashank Desai Center for Leadership and Organizational Development. Ashank Desai himself is the chairman of a company called Mastec, and he is also an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad. And he, in his spirit of giving, has contributed a certain amount of corpus to the Institute for work on leadership and organization development. So we're very happy, and I think he has signed in. So welcome, Ashank, and thank you for joining us. He's joined us online. And again, I think this particular talk is of great interest because we all learn about AI, we hear about it. The question of how are we going to lead in the era of AI is a very, very fascinating question, and therefore we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you very much again for traveling and coming, and I'm going to leave the podium to you. Thank you.
Great. Anyway, let's get started. I hope it doesn't ring too many times. Yeah. So just as a background, I mean, Niharika does get me once in a year to come and talk on a new topic. And why I chose this topic is because I do a lot of work currently in the area of artificial intelligence. And since it's a small group of 40 people odd, we will try and make it interactive so that you get a chance to not just wait till the end of 40 minutes and ask questions, but we can really continue to make it as interactive as possible as we go right through. So that's the idea. And this center, as Niharika said, is about leadership. So we said, let's couple the two and say that, look, with AI moving at such a rapid pace, and I will try and make it very low tech, not getting into details of AI, but more in terms of the various types of AI that are proliferating in the market today. And with AI moving at such a rapid pace, how do leaders respond? More important, how does each one of us respond? I mean, anybody coming out of IIM Ahmedabad, maybe getting into industry, getting into academia, is going to find that within 5 years, artificial intelligence is literally infiltrated every part of your existence. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, will that affect the way I work? Will that affect the way I lead? And what is it I can do to prepare myself? In fact, this company that we just listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange about 14 months ago is called GTT Data Solutions. And it focuses on this theme of what is called dual intelligence, which really means how does human intelligence evolve to use AI effectively and not like, people are going in one direction and AI is going in the other direction. So let me start by asking you a question. How many of you think that AI is good for mankind? Just put your hands up. How many of you are brave enough to think that AI will destroy mankind? Oh, by the way, if you want good company, I was attending a talk by Yuval Noah Harari. How many of you have heard Harari? Yeah, he wrote some amazing books. Sapiens was the first. Then my favorite, a book called Homo Deus. And then recently he wrote a rather not so great book called Nexus, which is on AI. But he's a big cynic on artificial intelligence. So if you read Nexus, you will find that he talks about so many instances, like for instance, the killing of Rohingyas in Myanmar, like for instance, the possible damage that AI can do in the hands of dictators, which is actually written in that book. So he's skeptical about that if AI keeps evolving at this pace, what will happen to the human race and how some evil humans, if you will, can manipulate AI to make it much more destructive for the people. So I think there is a minority group which still feels skeptical about AI because they feel that, look, this could create damage. We can talk about it as we go along if you're interested. So that's not a problem. So what we'll do is we'll actually cover this in 3 or 4 parts. So what we'll talk about a few things. I'll just cover the background a little bit. How did we get here? More important, the AI evolution and the coming revolution, how things are going to change. And the most important, I think, is planning for game-changing AI. I'm using game-changing AI because AI so far, whether you like it or not, has been more of, all of us, before I came for this talk, I just checked with Meta, whether it has new statistics on AI. A lot of people are using ChatGPT on a regular basis. And there are quite a few Claude and quite a few people that people are now using. But it's still, in a sense, it's augmenting your intelligence. Whereas, if you look at what I'll talk about in some detail called Agentic AI is almost going to replace and expand your intelligence horizons. So that's something we need to be prepared for. And then I'll come to the topic that I talked to you about, which is saying leading with dual intelligence. That if we have to exist, if we have to thrive, if we have to prosper, and AI has to be part of our ecosystem, how do we make that happen in organizations, assuming that most of you will go into organizations, or in society itself. So that's the broad agenda that we will cover. How did we get here? Where do you think AI was first used? Anybody? Now imagine an organization. I'll give you some hints. Imagine an organization which is a typical manufacturing organization. Pick any manufacturing organization or factory you visited. And I remember when I first started my career in manufacturing before kind of gravitating to computer education and then software exports. And my first job was in a company called Crompton Greaves in their factory in Nasik. And I still remember, this is 1980s. I joined this company and as a young MBA, fresh with new ideas, I thought I will do a quiz with the managers. So I went and talked to my boss, the materials manager, and said, Mr. Kinney, that was his name, Mr. Kinney. Mr. Kinney, how useful are computers to you nowadays? He said, extremely useful. I said, wow. This is the 80s. You don't expect senior managers to even react because computers in those days, some of you will remember, was in some EDP center somewhere with whirring tapes and everybody used to go and pray there in the morning, but nobody used to really use anything. So I said, that's amazing that the materials manager is saying computers are very useful. So I said, no, how do you use it? Is it because, you get new data from it? And you're like, I was this enthusiastic young 20-year-old. So he said, hey, Bhaiya, please wait. This was 8 o'clock in the morning in Nasik. He says, you wait for 20 minutes, I will answer all your questions. I said, what has 20 minutes got to do with his answer? So suddenly, like in all factories in those days, one young little kid in khaki half pants came with a kettle of tea and batata vadas. You know what a batata vada is? I hope most of you know. So he used to plonk the batata vada on the table and the tea. So Mr. Kinney quickly took out some computer stationery that was lying on his table and put it on there and said, see, I am getting fresh batata vadas clean thanks to computers. I said, what is the connection, Mr. Kinney? He said, this is completely useless information. I get information on non-moving and slow-moving materials almost like 4 weeks after it is slow-moving and non-moving. So what is the use to me? But I get it from the EDP departments in Bombay and it comes to Nasik after a week. So I just keep it and I use it for having clean food. So this was the extent of cynicism about computers in those days. And then you know what happened? Mini computers came in and then it's changed, etc., etc. So question to you. So in a factory like Crompton Greaves Switchgear Division, Nasik, where do you think AI can be used? I've already given you a hint if you heard my story. Take a guess, don't worry. We're all amongst friends. Yes, sir. You're right, but what analytics? Oh my God, you're a genius here. I thought it would take me 5 minutes to get to the answer. He's absolutely right. See, because what Kinney is talking about is the lack of descriptive analytics, which means it's right that he's giving him a whole list of 4,000 materials that are non-moving. He said, look, somebody analyze this and tell me, give me a graph and say, look, you're working with maybe 40% non-moving or slow-moving materials. So he wanted, almost like post-mortem analysis, but properly categorized, which is what we call data converted to information. But what he's talking about is exactly why AI started getting used. People said, who wants to know what went wrong in the past? I want to know what can go wrong in the future. So which material will I run out to manage my shop floor production? Because there is a potential strike in that factory, because that data is coming through that, look, they might slow down their supplies. And hence, what should I adapt my production plan to do to ensure that I cater to that shortage? That is predictive analytics. Predicting what can go wrong. Prescriptive is what we'll talk about Agentic AI a little later. Prescriptive AI is what the world is moving towards, saying that the computer itself, through AI, can make your production plan for the next 1 week. Because it's factoring all that factor that, the supplier is going to be slow and some trucks are going to get delayed, whatever. So it prescribes the production plan that you can make. So you see the difference? This is how it started. So if you go, I'll just take you through a couple of steps. AI has many predecessors, and that's what some of which I talked about. But digital itself, today in India, we are all very, very, very proud of what we call UPI. Even the same guy who served tea to Mr. Kinney would probably be using GPay and not taking cash. Okay, that's a great boon to mankind. And of course, what Prime Minister Modi introduced called the Jam Trinity, Jandhan, Aadhaar, Mobility, that was the harbinger of what we call digital India today. And of course, a lot of new e-commerce applications, multiple stuff has happened, Bhashini, the language app. So multiple things are happening to make digital India happen. But most important is, what is changing because of digital? And I'll come back to AI, but let's just get the background a little bit. The first is that it improves productivity. Clearly, digital technologies is enabling us to improve productivity, whether it's improving productivity in a retail store, in a hospital, in an airline, or of course in a factory. So I think that's one clear thing that's happening. The second, and less noticed but very obvious, is improving the experience. I'll give you a few examples of that. And the third is completely game-changing, which means the rules of the game or the business model itself is becoming completely new. So that's the bottom line that you see there. How is it enabled? It's being enabled in digital India by integrating digital and physical experiences. I was speaking at Nirma University in Gandhinagar this morning, and I asked the marketing professor, do you teach digital marketing? He's a very smart man. He actually turned around and told me, nobody teaches digital marketing. Because digital marketing is now embedded in marketing. Great answer. He says, you can't teach a marketing course on one side and then talk about social media and digital marketing and influencer marketing. Because they're so embedded together. Yesterday, Niharika and I had dinner together, and we were talking about how podcasts can be used to really proliferate thinking in a particular format. That is all social media being used to influence thinking. So I think that's the difference we're seeing. And the middle part is what it says, the Internet of everything. Because everything is connected on the Internet. The third is automation of factories through robots and everything else, automation of knowledge work. The fourth is big data and advanced analytics. And advanced analytics is what you said, moving from descriptive to predictive to prescriptive analytics. And of course, the social matrix, I just talked about that. Social media, everything connected through influence and everything else. And finally, anything as a service. And in fact, this anything as a service, which means that any kind of thing can be done as a service, is what created the digital revolution. What do you mean by that? I mean, it means Facebook, for instance, which offers all kinds of information services. Uber and Ola, okay, where people have now, in fact, my daughter lives in New York. She has never bought, never will buy a car in New York because where do you park? I mean, even if you park a car in New York, it costs you $40 per hour. So they all use Uber, and Uber is available like literally at 2 minutes notice, and India is also getting there. So Uber or Ola Auto for that matter, or Oyo Rooms or Airbnb, all these are the lack of ownership of asset and moving towards service rather than asset. So I think that's a very clear trend that's seeing in the market. The top part is the technologies, and I want to kind of, obviously mobile technology is one, Wi-Fi technology is another, the whole internet is another area. So IoT or Internet of Things is a big initiative that we see everywhere. So all these are part of what's happening in social media. What this has done, and I'll give you a few companies that are proliferating. So there are three models that have emerged in digital India and digital world for that matter. The first is what we call the cost model. Okay, cost model is what created Google, Facebook. If any of you follow Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder, he has gone public 10 years ago saying we will never ever charge for Facebook usage. It's a great promise to make. Because even another competitor like LinkedIn, for instance, has what they call a freemium model, which means that you can start free, but when your number of followers grow, I mean, like I hit my 30,000 followers about 2 years back, and I'm bombarded with mails by Google. For a small amount of payment, you can increase your followers to 100,000, and you can have all these premium services. After resisting for 1 year, I succumbed and finally said, okay, I'll pay that small amount of money, really a small amount of money. But now I'm suddenly paying LinkedIn. Okay, so whereas Facebook has said they'll never ever pay, however many people follow you or whatever you do. So it's an interesting model. So it's free to freemium, what was mentioned there, ultra low cost, even if it's costly, aggregating buyers, which is what Facebook does, complete price transparency if you're doing this, and of course things like reverse auctions or saying that, like I remember there was hotels.com, where if you're going to, let's say, Los Angeles, you can actually put out saying that, look, I want a hotel within 5 miles from the airport at not more than $200 per night. And it will look for it and suggest it to you. So it's a very easy thing to do. It's just a reverse auction or a usage-based. And usage-based pricing. In fact, the prediction, by the way, is, see, today all of us, when we buy a computer, we get a license of maybe Microsoft Word and all the usual stuff. And it's embedded so we don't notice it, but it's expensive. So they're saying that they will come and there'll be one copy of Microsoft Word stored on some NVIDIA server somewhere in the planet, and you will only pay based on usage. So during the day, if you did typing for maybe 1 hour and created a PowerPoint which took 40 minutes and maybe did an Excel spreadsheet, you will pay for that one hour plus 40 minutes plus 20 minutes. You will not pay for licensing the software. So that's the usage-based pricing, that model that we're talking. The experience model, the classic example is Netflix. Okay, I mean, I'm one of those category of people who keep trying once a year to go to a movie theater and watch a movie. Okay, I first watched a completely crazy movie by Amir Khan. I forget its name, some Lal Singh something movie. So I stayed till the interval. I was very proud of myself, and then I walked out. Then recently I went to see this amazing movie called Kantara. After 20 minutes, I'm saying, what am I doing to myself? And I walked out. So, I mean, okay, you don't even have time to have the popcorn. Forget about enjoy the movie. So now I am this Amazon Prime Netflix fan. I mean, the reality is I have 7 half-watched movies on Netflix and maybe 4 on Amazon Prime. But it's still convenience. It's your own experience. I mean, you don't need to go buy a ticket and wait for the movie to start, etc. So for people like me who go crazy with managing my own calendar, it's much easier to do it at convenience. So Netflix is a classic example, but there are many others. I mean, Disney itself is, I mean, if you book yourself for a Disney tour, literally they'll give you a Disney watch on day 1 and you can manage your schedule, decide which rides to do. Everything is improving the quality of your experience. The third is, of course, the platform model. I mean, the most common example are Uber and Ola, of course. So people who are building ecosystems where buyers are aggregated, customers are individuals, and you really build a community of users, and communities are now becoming very, very big. So the WhatsApp communities, I mean, most of the groups that you may be on are actually forming communities of practice or communities of people who like exactly the same things, and that's been. So this is where the preamble to digital is. This is what I was saying to answer to that question. Don't worry about it. It just says, and if you look at it, you'll find that it says the first part is what happened, descriptive analytics. The second, it goes to why did it happen. So it goes from what happened, which is just facts, to why did it happen in some analysis. So that's the descriptive analytics. what can happen, okay, which is predictive analytics, what should happen, what can happen, which is predictive analytics, and what should happen, which is prescriptive analytics. So this continuum, what you see in that graph, is really what's happening. And it's all happening by, I did my PhD in an area called knowledge management in IIT Bombay. And knowledge management is nothing but moving from data to, how does data become information? Stupid question, just to wake you up. What makes data information? Yes, sir. Huh? Yeah, but what is information? Yeah, information is just classified data. Meaning you're presenting data in a format where it becomes information. What Mr. Kinney wanted from his 40-page report. How does information become knowledge? Anybody? Huh? No, not applied. Something else. Okay. And how do you draw inferences from information? Will you and he draw the same inferences from the same information? Why? Your context is different. Where you come from, how you view the information based on your past experience, that's what determines knowledge. And what is the fourth element of what we call the DIKW quartet? Data to information to knowledge to? What do you think? Wisdom, absolutely. And wisdom is embedded knowledge. Okay, wisdom is like the Upanishads. It's there because so many people have kind of talked about it and made it a knowledge practice, so on and so forth. So that's the data continuum that we're talking about. So let's move to AI and talk a little bit about AI. Okay, and then I'll come to the people part of it. So if you look at AI evolution, why is AI becoming more and more important? A, because the cost of technology is rapidly collapsing. Okay, of course, with LLMs, I'll come to that, is going up a little in terms of some AI architectures. But performance is increasing of all computing. Costs are dropping like crazy today computing costs are very, very low at this point of time. Increasing accuracy. Today you rarely doubt the accuracy of a computer output. Because you assume that, people have kind of cleaned and sliced and diced the data and it works well for you. And the fourth is, of course, enterprise integration. Just to give you an example, we used to call it, and in fact, MIT had a term for it in the 90s. They said, look, the whole world will start with localized exploitation of computers, which really means you have an accounting system on your computer, you have an HR system on your computer. Then it moved towards enterprise integration, 3 phases. One is what they call internal integration, which means the systems came together. Then they called it business process re-engineering, which means to use the power of technology, we started making our processes more streamlined so that they didn't go backwards and forwards. They used technology and moved forward all the time. What did companies do after they did business process re-engineering and IT? They integrated their business networks, which means if you today go to a tier 1 or a tier 2 supplier of Suzuki or Bajaj Auto or whoever, they are also impacted by the information systems of the parent, because if the supply chains are not fully integrated with technology, it won't work. So this is what they call business network integration. And finally, of course, there is again an esoteric phrase called business scope redefinition that MIT predicted would happen, which is true. Today if you look at American Airlines, they make more money from their reservation system than by flying airplanes. Flying airplanes is normally a loss, except for Indigo, of course, with monopoly. But it's quite amazing. Okay? So, their revenue source or their profit source has changed to some other part in the value chain. So that's really what is happening today worldwide. So what does it imply for us? Gen AI. What is Gen AI? Anybody? That I know. What does it do? Let me ask you a question before I show you the slide. What is the difference between something you hear all the time, the LLM, the large language model, generative AI and agentic AI? Anybody? If you answer this question, you can leave the class because you know everything I'm going to tell you. What do you think? What is an LLM? What does NVIDIA do anyway? Not quite. LLMs are your architecture. It's like infrastructure. Without the LLM, you can't do any AI. So, generative AI is WhatsApp for us. It's ChatGPT, for instance. But ChatGPT was... See, the reason why a lot of people still don't trust things like ChatGPT is ChatGPT is almost designed to give you the answer you want and not necessarily the right answer. So it's almost like, thinking one step ahead of you and saying, okay, next you'll ask this, next you'll ask this. That's how a conversation with AI normally progresses. So let me quickly demystify that. And by the way, this is pretty obvious that sales and marketing is the top AI application anywhere. This is a large chart. I mean, we can send you all the slides, and nothing confidential. But these slides shows all the types of businesses on one hand, manufacturing, oil and gas, etc., and all the functions. The sales and marketing by far is the biggest user of AI, followed by HR, followed by finance and the other functions. So if you look at these three, that's the point I was making. Essentially what we are saying is, all service that you expect in any large business process is being delivered through software. So the middle part I just talked to you about, unbundling services from humans, which means that organization roles, and rebundling them into software. So the ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, etc., are nothing but very intelligently designed software that takes the role that you would do in terms of doing your own research on Google, etc., and preempts that all the time. So you ask a question. I mean, there is a huge field that many of you might even get into called prompt engineering. How do you design the right question so that you can get the best answers from AI? I mean, to give you an example, Niharika talked about the books I write. I was writing a book, more like a novel, with this heroine wanting to travel around Europe. And this is like 3 years ago when ChatGPT just came in. So I asked ChatGPT a question saying, okay, my heroine is going to Europe, what should she do? So what does ChatGPT give me? It gives me the immigration rules of all the 47 countries in Europe. I mean, I didn't ask for this information. But what information did I ask for? I didn't educate ChatGPT on what I want. Then I prompted with a better question saying that if she's traveling, what should be her itinerary and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm saying. When people say that AI hallucinates, that AI doesn't know what it's talking about, it's you who are hallucinating because you asked it the wrong question, which is why prompt engineering is important. So what is an AI agent? It's written there. So AI agent can take a full function and deliver value to you on that. Whereas ChatGPT is working with you hand in hand, AI agent can go far ahead of you. So just to give you an example, for fraud analytics, one of our software companies is building what they call a layered AI, agentic AI. There is a master agentic AI that you can have a conversation with that AI. The AI has one level of slaves, which it runs around and say, okay, do this simulation, do that simulation, etc. And these simulators have another round of AI, which will look at what data to use for the simulation. So it's a 3-layered, it's almost like building an organization, except the organization is not human, it's all AI. So that is agentic AI. So agents, what is written there, can absorb full functions or full processes and with continuous learning, embed the learning that you get out of every interaction or every fraud transaction and put it back into the software. So this is why they are saying that in theory, agentic AI can take over from you most functions that you're performing, which I'll come back to when I'm saying, so what do we do next? So that's the whole idea. So in this context, if you look at the 3 traditional uses, and I'm making it very simple here, so traditional LLM will complete an isolated task when prompted. An AI agent, and this is the LLM plus the ChatGPT generative AI kind of model, though it's really a first generation model. But the AI agent is happening is, what is written there is, it will book a hotel for you if you're traveling, which will match your budget, will match the availability of the hotel. So it operates with more ambiguity, more complexity, what is not sure, it might change from day to day. An autonomous AI agent, which is what people like Harari are afraid of, will learn your preference over time and then won't even ask you. If you have an autonomous AI agent as your secretary, if you will, all you have to do is tell it that, look, I want to go to six cities in New York in US in 10 days. So give me an itinerary. It'll know exactly where you've been before, what you enjoy doing. Is it like beaches? Is it like mountains, like Yosemite? And will give you an agenda which 90% of the time you're likely to agree to. So it's quite impressive. I used an autonomous AI agent for planning a trip that we are doing to Antarctic, Patagonia, and Argentina end of this year. I said, look, I have exactly 22 days. Give me a perfect itinerary. So it suggested the cruise line, suggested what I should do, when I should get onto the cruise line, where should I go from there, where do I fly from Ushuaia to Calafate to Buenos Aires. And I made 0 changes to the itinerary. Because by then it knows that if me and my wife are traveling, what kind of stuff will we like, and we may not want too strenuous an activity. So that is, and it'll keep growing on you as you go along. If you see one movie on Netflix, I would recommend a movie called The Artifice Girl. It's the ARTIFICE. Girl. Very few people have seen it, I don't know why, but it's a brilliant movie. It's basically about an AI agent which is designed as a pretty girl. So it's like a robot. So it looks like a girl. And it is built by scientists to support the efforts of the police department who are investigating pornography, child pornography. So it actually crawls the web, identifies people who might be the culprits, works with the police. But after then, this movie progresses by the agent. I mean, you actually, the heroine of the movie is actually the robotic agent. So, and after a point, you start kind of relating to that as the heroine. So suddenly, around the interval time, the heroine starts getting very bored with what is doing. She says, I mean, these police guys are so stupid. Okay, I have to tell them the same thing over and over again. So it has a very derisive view of the human being. And then the second part is all about, so now what does the AI do? The AI is feeling lonely also. When you think that you have a problem, the AI has a bigger problem. But it's smarter than you are and gets bored faster. So the movie ends with this AI agent or this artivist girl actually learning to do ballet dancing, and the poor thing is practicing ballet dancing by itself. So when Harari says that 5 years from now, every teenager will have an AI companion and will totally shun their real life boyfriend or girlfriend, it's because they're saying that, look, when you have a problem, let's say you're feeling stressed about something, and you go and talk to your best friend might have had a stressful experience yesterday. So her response will be based on her experience rather than your experiences. Whereas your AI is your personal slave. So it will always respond to you in the way it thinks is good for you. So if I gave you the perfect AI agent, the artivist girl, so you would also be more friendly with the artivist girl than with somebody else. But it's conjecture. Don't believe me. I'm just telling you what Harari and people like that are worried about as psychological scientists of how it will work. Okay. So basically what we're saying is the autonomous AI agent learns your preferences over time and makes decisions which are aligned with your unique context, almost like what I talked about knowledge. So it becomes a knowledgeable agent. It's not an information agent, which is what ChatGPT is all about. Okay? You're with me so far? So let's move. So what makes agents special in AI? That's very obvious. They are goal-seeking, which means they are operating towards a certain goal and not just answering your questions. Continuous learning, so it's actually done by in-context learning, cumulative memory, etc., etc. And hierarchical, what I said earlier. I mean, agents can call other agents, so you can create a network of agentic AI. The first one is a conversational bot, and the rest can be just slave AIs, which are performing to suit the prompt given by the main AI. So that's the whole idea. A few quick ones. So this is what you see here is how does AI agents process goals? So it will do exactly what you do. I mean, if somebody gave you a task to accomplish, what will you do? You'll do exactly these 4 things. You'll scan the environment, see what's available, what tools do I have, etc. It will plan and deconstruct, which means it will break down complex goals into manageable tasks. It will execute the plan, which means it will leverage, put resources on the problem, leverage digital resources, other agents to complete the task. And it will learn and adapt, which means as and when you make your own mistakes, next time you make different mistakes, don't make these mistakes. So learning and adapt, and this is exactly what a complex agentic AI architecture can do for you. Okay, so it's gone this far in terms of capabilities. In every industry, people are starting to use agentic AI. I mean, I'll just give you a few examples without going into the details. So for instance, I mean, I chair Honeywell in India. And if you look at what Honeywell does, Honeywell Process Automation does, I mean, we have big data centers, one in Houston in the US, one in Pune, and one in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And across these 3 centers, which is spread across the world, we are monitoring something like 4,000 process plants, big process plants, like Saudi Aramco. You've all heard of Saudi Aramco, probably the world's biggest oil and gas production facility. So the entire management of that Dhahran facility of Saudi Aramco is done by 2 of these centers. I won't tell you that for security reasons, which centers, but 2 centers manage that entire process automation. Everything is AI enabled. So it can actually guide the person on the plant in Dhahran in Saudi Arabia, saying that, look, this component of the valve looks weak. So before it collapses, which is likely to collapse, predictive, 3 weeks from now, why don't I prescribe that, look, within 1 week you change the valve. Okay, so it's like managing this huge network of process plant by just getting AI to kind of prompt it on what to do next. It's quite amazing. When you see it in action, we have a control room in each of these locations, and they're monitoring multiple plants at the same time with red and blue flashes. Everything you see in the movies, you're seeing in process automation. Same thing is beginning to happen in building automation, so on and so forth. And you're really looking at collaborative robots that are working on together. So what's called cobots. Yeah, please. Is it like ERP plus automation? So add the robots to it. Because don't forget that, I mean, in a typical factory nowadays, like I just joined the board of a company called Cyient DLM, which has factories in Hyderabad. So I joined it because my old manufacturing experience of watching people assemble switch gears by hand, I thought, let me renew my romance with manufacturing. This is no human being, fully automated plant. Well, they manufacture very sophisticated programmable logic devices. It doesn't need human being. Very little bit of soldering is done last minute by the human being. Everything else is automated. So I think that's managing such plants is really what we're talking about. Similarly, customized manufacturing, what we call the lot size of one. That today you have so much of flexible manufacturing that you don't really need to plan an assembly line and manufacture maybe 500 cars of the same type. Everything can be modified one-to-one. So I think this is one area. If you look at finance, this is a big user of websites. So Agentic AI banking assistants, banking assistants which are guiding you what to do, or insurance assistants. You're looking for a policy, it will completely guide you on. I mean, there's a stupid ad that is running around about the husband and wife talking. The husband is using AI, and the wife says, I always told you to buy this from LIC. It's a reality that AI will give you the same answer ultimately that maybe your human intelligences can do. But sometimes, not blaming human beings, humans can be biased, and AI, like I said in the relationship case, can be almost guaranteed to be completely unbiased. It's based on constant feeding of data. That's what it is. Similarly, if you look at retail is a big area. For instance, today, a lot of the Amazon shopping experience is going to be based on completely understanding your psyche. For instance, Amazon will send you a basket of home usage stuff without you even ordering it. Toothpaste. It knows that you consume one tube of toothpaste, let's say, in 8 weeks. Every 8 weeks, there'll be toothpaste. Maybe every 16 weeks, there'll be shaving cream, whatever, at your door. And it'll be automatically built. Unless you say, don't do this, wait for me to order. But I believe 40% of people in America are saying, oh, now Amazon knows me entirely, so let it keep supplying, I'll keep paying for it. It kind of eliminates the friction from the payment transaction completely, because you're almost like a khata being maintained by Amazon on what you need and when you would pay. Similarly, of course, the classic example today is, there was a time when, if you went to a fashionable street like Orchard Street in London or Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, people go there to try on dresses. But today you go and stand in front of a mirror, and then you just go back home and you can try on 40 dresses without trying it on, because you will be shown yourself wearing each one of those dresses, and you make your choice. So the whole convenience of a combination of AI and animation and what is called metaverse is really changing the way the game is played. Travel and tourism, very big deal. If you look at virtual assistants for travel, today you go to almost any hotel in Tokyo, in Japan, the check-in is done by a robot. There's hardly anybody, and that robot knows exactly that you prefer a hard bed, that you want this in your room, and 95% out of 100, it'll get you exactly right, especially if you visit the same place over and over again. So it's amazing the amount of what they call social exhaust we all leave. See, the only way you can avoid being tracked by AI is never get onto the internet. Is there anybody here who has the ability not to ever get onto the internet? That you don't use social media, you have shunned Facebook, you're off LinkedIn, very rarely, right? And people like me are totally on social media. So I don't care. Let Amazon know everything about what I do, what I eat, what I like. I'm just making my life simpler. There are people like my daughter, who's actually a scientist in New York. She will absolutely not get onto Facebook unless she has to just respond to something very urgent. She says, I don't want some stupid sales guy to already know what I want before I tell him what I want. So that's where we are heading. So that's why there are different types of characters in this ecosystem, but AI will respond to each other. So let's move to the game-changing AI. What is game-changing AI? As I said, we have to move from anecdotal AI. Now, if you look at let's look at a process. Let's look at a logistics process. Okay. So the whole game, even for instance, the recent war that India and Pakistan fought, many of your armed forces, I was doing some analysis on, if you believe the logic that the Chinese method is so amazing, so essentially that is the same as this. They were claiming that, look, they could actually track any aircraft within 300 kilometers or whatever, and they could manage it through a full digital ecosystem. Same thing with logistics. I mean, if you think about it, the last thing you should do is saying, oh, I do supply chain management. I have 40 people working in my stores, plus transportation, plus dispatch, etc. Let me put AI to help them. You've lost the plot. You should rather say that, look, I have a logistics problem, not a problem, but really an agenda to say I will ship maybe 400 tons of material and I'll ship it to so many locations. Let's design a system where AI plays the hero's role. So you first design the AI and then say, what can humans do to add to the AI? You understand what I'm saying? That is game-changing AI. So really understand that AI can do 70% of the work, plan for the 70%, and then say, what is the 30% where I need human beings to fill it? What is the problem? The problem is a huge retraining of people. I mean, you have a stores clerk who has been working in the same job for the last 15 years, and suddenly you tell him, ki, boss, 90% of the work you're doing, AI will take over. And what is the 10% you have to train you for? So some people will be untrainable. Okay, in fact, even our best company in the IT industry, TCS, about 6 months back said that, look, we're going to retrain everybody in AI, but maybe 10,000 people will lose their jobs because we will deem them to be untrainable in AI. Okay, now you could argue that everybody can be trained in AI, but that's a different argument. So essentially what we're saying is that to meet your AI aspirations, and that is where the leadership role comes in, organizations must shift from pilots and experiments to enterprise-wide deployment, which really means, if you look at, you have to consider, as a leader, these are the multiple things you have to consider. And as I said, I will send you these slides, so I don't want to spend too much time. Governance and security is people's biggest paranoia today. So if I open out my entire information architecture to some technology somewhere, I mean, NVIDIA knows more about my company than I do. Certainly ChatGPT knows more about my company. So that's a risk that you have to manage. Data quality. I mean, the reason why we think data is more important than AI is if your data is poor, the AI will hallucinate because it's working on data which is defective in the first place. And unfortunately, I must tell you that 90% of the data we use is not fully accurate. So there's some assumption built in, some data, some feedback has not been fed in, etc., etc. And the third problem that you have to manage is legacy infrastructure. If your infrastructure, which means your LLM, your hardware, your software is not accurate, you tend to make mistakes. Similarly, if you look at AI ambition as a reality, you can see this. This is actually recent data. 95% people or companies claim they're already using AI, and 99% plan future use. But sadly, 76% of these companies have deployed in just 1 or 2 use cases. So we have one little victory in maybe materials management, and you say, oh, we are great AI users. But AI, as I said, can be all-encompassing in terms of every business function of your organization. And as people who are going to be leaders of AI, you have to recognize this fact and make it happen. Ambitious timeline. I think most people are expecting that full deployment will happen across 2 years. Never happens. In digital, I've been working in digital for 20 years, right from 2005. And every company said, look, we want this to be done in 2 years. It took them 5 years, 10 years. Some people never accomplished the outcomes. One of the books that we wrote was on digital success, saying why 80% of companies don't realize even 20% of the benefits they thought they will get by digital. And with AI, it's worse. So I think that's why people like you, when you get in, have to really manage that process. I won't get into data. For managing AI risks, I think just to repeat and then move to the dual intelligence piece. Accuracy risks, I mentioned for data, is important. So if you don't manage accurate data, you will have to combat hallucinations, errors, bias, misinformation. Human oversight, which is the point I'm coming to. Security threats and regulatory compliance. These 4 issues, if you take care of, then your big AI architecture in your organization will work much better. What are the strategic implications? You have to redesign the organization. I just talked about for game-changing AI. You have to assume that roles will have to evolve. I have another slide on that saying, any role that somebody is playing today will not be the role they'll play tomorrow. So, in a sense, if some of you, for instance, in the Armed Forces batch are moving into business for the first time, you will find that you have to rediscover, don't get trained by somebody who's been doing that role for 15 years. Just use your own mind and say, what is the architecture of the role that you think is going to be important? Because you have the advantage of building a clean sheet agenda in what you're trying to do. Prepare for the power dynamics. These are where humans can manage better than AI. Because AI doesn't understand things like organization politics and who has a power dynamic over whom, etc. And goal management. Goal management is intrinsic to what AI must do and intrinsic to what we must do as human beings. Look at the ROI, return on investment. What is the hard ROI we should be expecting, and what is called the soft ROI? Improved employee experience, innovation capabilities, talent, etc., etc. So, what is the role of the human being? Having said all this, give me a few examples. If you are going in and saying that here is an organization which wants to be fully AI enabled, what role can you play as a leader? I want some words from you so that I can get this thing moving. Emotional. But I told you, my little robot, the artifice girl, is more emotional than you are. So, what makes us think that AIs can't be emotional? Okay, let me ask you a question. Suppose you have a very high EQ. Okay, what does it enable you to do that an AI cannot do? Sorry, somebody said something there? Efficient. No, you are absolutely right. Because AI can give you a decision-making insight, and to a very large extent. But at the end of the day, somebody who has to pull the trigger is you. I agree. So that's an important one. What else do you think humans must do? Sir? So is emotion a good thing or a bad thing in a business organization? Okay, fine. This is the point I was making earlier, saying teams, roles and goals. Clearly first design what team you will need, and the team, by the way, includes AI. There's a company we've been working with for the last 2 years. It started with a function or a department having 47 people. Today, after game-changing AI implementation, they have 74 AI agents working with them and only 7 people. So 47 has been reduced to 7. But those 7 people, the roles, that's the next one, is completely changed. Because the position, the hierarchy, how they interact with AI, all that is changed based on what the skills and expertise is required there. Goals, as I mentioned earlier, everybody's working towards that goal, but it's a combination of AI and humans. Impact on teams, team composition will change. Voting power, or the influence that certain leaders in the team had earlier, will change because a lot of those decisions, which were very intuitive, can be left to AI. And finally, the goal achievement will be very different across organizations. So when you say dual intelligence, and that's the slide I wanted to come to, and then I'll end with a slide on organizational context. The human context is this. First, you must have a transformational leadership style, which means you have to accept that business as usual will not be good enough. It's going to change. Innovation, you talked about emotional intelligence. To me, it's part of innovation. So, ability to see the future, saying that, look, when I look at this process, when I look at this function, let's say sales and marketing, or a business process like logistics, how will it change in the future so that we can adapt to other people also changing? Because if, let's say, I'm a supplier of, let's say, if I'm a Surat supplier of diamonds to America, the American consumers' changes are also being done by AI, and we are supplying based on that. So can we change our lot sizes? Can we look at new things? I'm just making it up. But literally anywhere you have to think through the entire process, starting with your organization and going to maybe the end consumer and the end supplier. So the full value chain has to be re-optimized. This I've mentioned multiple times. Getting the whole team connected, the team of AI, the team of human agents, etc., and enhancing human intelligence and systemic AI. So AI you can take for granted when you design a system, but human intelligence you cannot take for granted, because you'll probably deal with people who come through a certain mindset, certain background, certain training, and you have to retrain them for the future. So you have to create new vistas for growth for human beings, and it's not easy. Believe me. We're struggling with this in many organizations, where the typical maintenance manager has been managing the maintenance department for 25 years. And he says, if you tell me AI will take over all this maintenance management function of predictive maintenance, prescriptive maintenance, what am I going to do? Okay, so there's a lot of trauma that people do go through, but we as people coming out of IIM Ahmedabad probably need to be clear on how we can engage with the leadership, become leaders who are managing that trauma. So critical steps, just to close with this, these are the key principles, first of all. I mentioned this earlier, I'm just repeating what I said earlier. Build very strong data foundations, which means quality, infrastructure, all critical precursors. Focus on business-specific use cases. That means if you're building the game-changing AI, make sure it is relevant to the business of the company. A lot of people do peripheral activities with AI, which is nice anecdotally to talk about, but doesn't really serve the purpose. select the right partnerships, because there is no way you can do it yourself. So who are the vendors, who are the consulting houses, who are the data providers, that's important. And balancing innovation with risk. Over-innovating might mean that you kind of completely expose the security system or the data privacy of your organization. That's something to be looked at. So I'll end with a simple 8-step model that if somebody tasks you with being the AI champion or the AI architect of an organization in future. So first is evaluate the foundation and alignment, which means that the C-suite, the CXO, the CEO, etc. The CEO may have got you in to say, "Aap AI karke dikhao," but the CEO himself may not be psychologically ready for that. So aligning CEOs on vision, establishing a common digital language, assessing the current state, which obviously you have to do, and then define the scope and strategy. That how much of AI and digital implementation do you really want to do in the organization, and what is the strategy? So what is the priority? What are the first steps to be taken, etc. The third I mentioned, compliance, risk and governance, because any organization, especially in the pharma industry, for instance, you just cannot do some things which are not compliant with what FDA prescribes and so on and so forth. And healthcare. I mean, some areas like retail, there's a lot of latitude in terms of what kind of systems you can design. But look at what is the limitation in your own organization. Every organization will have safety standards, will have so many other standards. Operating model redesign, which is the critical middle piece. Remember what I said, saying that look at the full, what your outcomes are going to be, and redesign it based on what AI can do for you and what human intelligence or people must add to that. Data and technology enabled, this can take you 2 years. And as I said, if data is not okay, the data warehouses, the data marts are not working, you need professional help to fix that, to make sure data is ingested at the right place, is retrieved at the right place, stored at the right place. AI integration, this is where the AI thing comes in, because never do AI integration before you have managed your data. That's extremely important. And then measuring ROI. That's why I said the hard ROI, soft ROI. Every stage of your implementation, are you getting results? Do you need to take corrective action somewhere? And so on and so forth. And finally, and it sounds like a trivial piece, culture and talent transformation. So remember I said that, look, the maintenance manager who's been doing it for 25 years, saying, why do you want me to change now? You have to change now, because otherwise your competition will change and eat your lunch. And that is the reason why nobody can afford to lag in terms of digital and in terms of AI. So I'm stopping here, and we still have 10 minutes. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. If I completely confused you anywhere, please feel to say so. I did a very fast 50 minutes. Tell me, if any of you are tasked with AI, do you know how to go about it now? Or is that, oh my God, I never want to be in AI, for heaven's sake. This is just too complicated for me. Yes, sir. Tell me.
Good evening, sir. I'm Major Sumit. Sir, coming to one of your earlier points that you mentioned about a leadership role in the era of AI. So I feel that humans would always be there, and it would be like they would be there to take important decisions. Like, for example, talking about the geopolitical scenario that we see, and because of that, the supply chain disruptions that happen so frequently, especially in today's geopolitical environment. So AI data can give us data. Okay, like this resources are available in this alternate places. But maybe because of some geopolitical reasons, those resources are of no use to us because we can't take those.
Correct.
So I think that human roles will forever be there. It's just that we need to utilize.
See, if I give you the counter to your own logic, if you had a very well-trained AI, it could probably take that decision better than you. I'll tell you why. Because humans tend to have a recency effect in their thinking. Somebody told me yesterday there's a great supplier for this in Abu Dhabi. So it sticks to our mind. So suddenly our main supplier in Sri Lanka failed. I'm just making it up. So you say, oh my God, let's talk to the Abu Dhabi guy. Whereas, not only what the Abu Dhabi guy can do, but there are alternatives in Lebanon, in this place, etc. If a large AI is constantly tracking who are your potential suppliers, at every stage, it will probably give you the better answer than your mind will give you. But the point that I think somebody sitting there made, that at the end of the day, the human must still decide. But your data points for taking the decision may be fantastic based on the use of AI. So I think that's the combination. But your point is right. I mean, ultimately, the human can best take the decision, and that is what new leadership is all about. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Is there a likely threat or an impact on people's skills or appraisals? For example, in an organization, a leader is able to make decisions based on his own experience and his own people management from his past experience. So is there a likely threat of AI on that particular aspect? Because I feel that is one thing which is AI immune as of now, but in your experience, is there something which is going to
No,
impact
if you
that?
remember, I said that AI is maximum used in marketing and sales and next in HR. I'll give you 2 examples. Recruitment, for instance. I mean, if you look at most organizations, even today, when somebody goes for an interview, I mean, you'll get the same stupid questions. Somebody will ask you, what are your strengths and weaknesses? So, I mean, like, because that's a standard thing you ask in an interview, right? I mean, to get the conversation going. But if you look at new AI-based recruitment models, like I'll give you an example before I come to this. I remember about 8 years back, IBM invited me to Bangalore to see their new IBM Watson. It was the AI supercomputer. Then it kind of split up a little. And I said, okay, I'll come and spend 45 minutes. So I actually flew to Bangalore, sat down in the meeting. And like in any IT company, you go in there, you'll find 6 people and 5 will be on their computers. So sometimes you feel insulted. Yeah, मेरे से बात करने आया कि they were working on their Excel spreadsheets. So I ignored the one and started talking to this guy. So after some time, I found the conversation getting more and more interesting. Okay? And suddenly towards the end, I didn't even know 40 minutes had passed. So at the end of the conversation, the host asked me, so what did you think of our discussion on IBM Watson? I told him the exact thing. I said, initially I was getting bored. Then suddenly, maybe the questions you asked or whatever it picked up. And towards the end, I was totally engrossed. He says, do you know why that happened? I said, no. He says, you've seen the power of AI. So what is AI here? You guys were just sitting in front of me. He said, no. We first gave your name, Ganesh Natarajan, to IBM Watson before you came. And he showed me the picture. So it's told him that this is one guy who will get bored in 7 minutes. Okay, you have to keep either entertaining him or you have to ask him a question. If you talk, his mind is already shifted to something else. It's all written on that sheet. I was like so horrified. Oh my God. No wonder I should not be using social media. Because it's getting me there. And then those guys who were, what I thought were actually getting input from IBM Watson. So IBM Watson was listening to the conversation. It was being fed through audio. And was telling them questions to ask me. Okay? Saying, probe for this information, probe for this information. And as I was answering, it was going back to the AI. And the AI became more and more intelligent because it was learning during the conversation on what my thinking was. In a sense, it was predicting what I would like to hear, but that's the point I was making earlier. So I'm telling you this on recruiting. So now in recruiting, in fact, we designed the system for an American company. It's quite amazing, because when the person, before the person is this thing, the AI will already tell you, these are the 5 questions you must probe, because I'm not sure this person will stay. So ask him these 3 questions worded like this so that he doesn't get offended. So it's amazing how effective interviewing can be. Similarly, you talked about appraisals. Okay? We have a new platform we're building called Skills Alpha. And Skills Alpha manages your entire learning. So when you sit on the platform, if you're an employee of an organization, it will first find out, okay, what's your career objective, what would you like to do, etc. And then it will determine what courses you should learn at your own time, how you should learn it, adaptive learning, meaning that, how do you, and third, what is the pedagogy? That you may learn better by watching video, he may learn better by being asked quizzes and questions, and it will optimize the learning process to suit your style. So if you think about it, it's uncanny. But if you again think about it, it's obvious. Why didn't we do this before? Because we as human beings said that, look, we will ask the same stupid question to everybody whom we meet. Appraisals are so funny in organizations, So, somebody sits across the table and you're doing this annual appraisal and you're just documenting recent events. 3 days earlier I asked you this and you didn't tell me this, I got insulted. Arey boss, we're talking about an annual appraisal, not your most recent experience of the individual. Okay, and then development action plans. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm saying there's so many things that AI can help you to do better. It's quite uncanny. So I think that's really what you have to think about. Yeah. Go ahead, ma'am. You ask him.
Intelligence. Like you have rightly brought out that the inputs are being taken from humans and then the AI is learning and giving out more productive outputs. So don't you think
AI is learning and also comparing with similars across and then coming out with more probabilistic ideas. That's it.
So, but don't you think it's other way around as well? Because of the dependency of the human on AI is going to be more. So isn't it like that the human will get influenced by the AI input as well?
Sadly,
so
yes.
it can be
Sad
that way
answer is
also,
yes.
sir.
And also humans will become inherently lazy.
So,
I have a 6-year-old grandson in New York. So I was asking him, do you know the 9 times table? So he said, what's the 9 times table? I said, do you know what 9 into 7 is? his question was not, I don't know. His question was, why should I know? They're teaching them AI at the age of 5 in the UN International School. So it's like, if I can get this through technology, why should I even bother? I don't even know. Even today, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I had a friend from Calcutta, Marwadi girl, who was like, she knew the 13 and a quarter times table. You know what a 13 and a quarter is? 13 quarter multiplied by 4, she can tell you like tomorrow. Because she said, when I sit in the mandi in Bada Bazaar in Calcutta, I don't have time to use a calculator. I have to immediately give those answers. But today's kids are not interested. So tomorrow, yes, you're right. We might be using a portion of our brain, which is so broad today, for much more focused things. But maybe the focused things we use our brains for are adding more value than others. I'm not answering all your questions. I'm just throwing you more questions. I don't know.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Yeah,
sir, when you talk in terms of emotions, like how the AI is inferring the emotions from any data or any conversation with the human?
In fact, this is a system we designed 15 years back, which was called sentiment analysis. So, for instance, I'll tell you, it's a real story. This was for a company in the UK, insurance company. So, somebody has a car breakdown. They're traveling on the M20, which is between London and Oxford, and the car breaks down. And he I got this car fixed. He calls up the insurance agency saying, how can it break down? And very tough tone of voice. So based on the tone of voice, angry customer, these are the responses you should give. Don't worry, sir. We are here to help you, kind of stuff. This is a meek tone of voice. Unfortunately, the AI told him that now you be aggressive. Saying, not our problem, it's your problem. Okay. So again, even the answer you give, the tone you use is being prompted by AI. Today if you look at translational AI, for instance, today you can travel anywhere in the world and use Google Translate, and your room service ordering, everything is done by that's not AI, but it's just a translator. But I'm saying that's how it will evolve as you go. Yes? I'm sorry, I went too fast, I know, but there was a lot of material to cover.
That's fine. But I have a very strange question. I believe that today, in the way AI is developing, in the way human beings are developing and progressing with AI, today I think is a scenario where AI is subservient to human beings. In time to come, do you envisage a situation where it will be reversed?
Not if the human being is smart. That's why I said, the human being says, the AI I'm the boss. That's I'm saying there in the industry. Any guy who gives his job to AI is a person who doesn't understand how to use it. So if you are conversant with AI, you know its limitations and specs, then you will always be conversant. But for that, you need to learn how to use it.
I agree, that is from a micro-organizational perspective. But if you were to take a look at it globally, how do you see the future of AI's dominance as far as human beings is concerned?
If superintelligence really takes over, as Harari says, what is Harari saying? Saying, because if Lenin had AI, and it's actually there in the book, so I'm not telling you something new. He said, if Lenin, by the way, some of you know that one of the worst dictators the world has seen. So if somebody even opened his mouth in a conversation in a cafe against Lenin, they would know and they would come and kill the guy. So he's saying, if AI was there with Lenin, so he would say that, look, this woman is pregnant, and let's kill the child in the womb because it's 90% likely to be an anti-Lenin person. So he said, this is the power AI can give to dictators of the world. So they can all become brutal murderers even beyond what you imagine. This is an extreme situation. But the Rohingya thing, by the way, if you've read the book, you will see that.
That's
Myanmar, you know what happened to the Rohingyas? No? There was one elderly cleric who was blasting away against the Rohingya community, saying these people are awful, etc., etc. For that one cleric, there were at least 40 people, sensible people, who said, what are you talking about? They're also Myanmaris. Okay, we can't go against one community, etc. But AI's algorithm in Facebook, that's what Harari says, I haven't validated that, muted the nice voices and amplified the cleric. Because that's what gets, as we all know, negative news gets, that's why Arnab Goswami is so successful. Negative news is always much more heard than Rajdeep Sardesai, who tries to kind of balance the two. But that's reality. So similarly, negative clerics were shouting against, isko maro, ye karo, wo karo, etc. Unfortunately, get more hearing. So that's an extreme example. Okay, that's what Harari talks about. He says, imagine this real situation in Myanmar and imagine the hypothetical situation in Lenin, and now transpose the power of AI on the Trumps and his ilk in the world. who knows what can happen? Okay, so I think that is really what people are a little worried about. Okay, last question. Yes, sir.
Visualize a situation whereby, there could be an organization which is having only AI tools.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've been doing some work with McKinsey. I've been doing some work with McKinsey. We are predicting that, let's say, like on the State Bank board, there were 4 of us as independent directors. I was there because of IT expertise. There's another person there because of audit expertise. So my prediction is that at least 50% of the board positions will be occupied by AI algorithms. Okay, because it will waste less time in chit-chat and informal conversation. And it will add more productivity to the organization. But whether the organization will accept it or not, I don't know. But the chairman of the board could be an AI at some point of time. Sounds scary. Okay, thank you very much. And please, anybody who's interested, please go through these slides. I mean, I'm sure Shweta can give you my email also. Feel free to reach out because, as I said, we're all students. Nobody has all the answers. But since people like me do a lot of research, we at least know what is likely to happen, not what will happen. Thank you. Are we done? Yeah. You want to make a speech?
I don't have a speech really. So I'll request Professor Niharika to present a small token of appreciation to our guest speaker, Dr. Ganesh.
She promised she won't give me one more round flower.
No, we gave you a t-shirt. You said. And
thank you all very much. Thank you for coming.
Can we have a big round of applause for Ganesh sir? So it has been an absolutely amazing session. I'll just take 2 minutes to thank everybody who's over here. And we are thankful to Dr. Ganesh Natarajan sir for accepting our invitation. We are so truly grateful that you were able to take out time from your extremely busy schedule and be amidst us. In fact, we all know that we tried scheduling it a few months before, but I think on the same day, because of Mumbai rains, it was not possible. So there's a time and place for everything, and today is the day. I'm sure everyone here has a lot of takeaways for each of them from your session. We'd also like to thank our director, Professor Bharat Bhaskar, as well as our governing council members, advisory board members, and executive council members for their continued support and guidance in driving the center's initiatives forward. We are especially grateful to our center donor and patron, Sri Ashang Desai, himself an IIMA alum, who has been our source of strength and inspiration, and with whose generous support, as ma'am already mentioned, the center came into existence in 2021. Sir is joining us online today. We are also joined by Mr. Venkat Changavalli, who is also an alum of IIM Ahmedabad from the 1977 batch. We are grateful to our various in-house departments at IIMA, starting from audio-visual, computer center, housekeeping and security teams, and would also like to thank Kamla Mess for the wonderful high tea arrangements. I'd also like to thank our friends and colleagues from industry bodies like CII, FICCI Ladies Organization, as well as all the students, especially our new friends from the Armed Forces Program, faculty staff from the institute, as well as other institutes from Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar, and industry professionals, including some of you who are from the government, who were able to attend today's session. Thank you so much. I, Shweta Singh, on behalf of my team, Pooja and Maitri at Ashang Desai Center for Leadership and Organization Development, who are working under the chairpersonship and esteemed guidance of Professor Niharika Vohra, would like to thank everyone who has directly or indirectly contributed to the success of this event. So at Ashang Desai Center for Leadership and Organization Development, which we very lovingly called as or refer to as ADCLOD, we regularly hold such conversations from those who are with academia and industry alike, and would also invite and urge all of you to stay connected and updated on our future events. So thank you so much again, everyone. Until we meet all of you next time, have a lovely evening. Thank you.